Welcome to DRT's Media Monitoring webinar, and we are really, really glad to have you. And we really want to talk about how to make media monitoring measurement work for you. So I've been in marketing for 19 years, and I know that marketers have a few pain points that, keep coming up, keep coming up for us each and every time. And we're going to go through quite a few of those today. Um, just for those of you who don't know, I consider myself the chief storyteller here at DRT Communications. And then we launched our media monitoring service a couple of years ago because I knew that I was doing all of this work in PR, in marketing, and wanted to know exactly how we were doing for our clients. When I was a marketing manager, all the initiatives that we came up with, was there a great way of measuring and monitoring that? And then I came upon a good friend who has now become a good friend of mine, Alison from Media InSite, who will also join us on the webinar today. And we are partners in business, and she's a specialist and an amazing creator of ad monitoring in the Caribbean. So just a couple more minutes, we'll start unfolding and giving you that idea of how to really make marketing work for you, measurement work for you, and monitoring of all the great work that I know you're all doing work for you. So let's delve into some of the pain areas that PR professionals and marketing professionals deal with. There's something I want to say to you. You'll see a pop-up really soon on your screen. We're going to launch a poll, and I'll get my team is here. They're going to give me the results of the poll later on or during the webinar, as well as if you have questions, please feel welcome to type them into me. The team is, of course, managing the questions, and I'll get to many of them as I can. So you'll see that the pop-up on the poll has just started. And how do you know your competitor's marketing strategy? That is our poll question. So please feel welcome to just jump on, click on the link, and answer that right away. So let's go to just talking about a little bit of the pain points that we experience. Oh, it says poll in progress. Does it mean I can't continue onwards? So make sure you're answering that question. So the pain points that we want to talk about and highlight are some of the very things that we go through every day. I just spoke about them, where we do all of this work in marketing. We launch really awesome campaigns, really great creatives, and how do we know that it's working for us? What insights can we go and report? Another pain is when we're being asked as marketers for these reports, how do we report in to our managers or to our board? That's another big one. And also, we are given KPIs, or we should have KPIs. The business certainly has key performance indicators. We have business objectives that we're working towards all the time. How do we demonstrate that we've even hit these KPIs, and what kind of return on investment? So in the pre-questions that we got, I noticed that there are a lot of questions. A lot of people are measuring their marketing strictly on sales. And one of the things that I caution everyone that I happen to talk to in business is we can't just measure our marketing by sales. Of course, you guys know there's brand awareness, that's important, brand loyalty, so many other things that we are measuring, and so many other things that need to be a part of our KPIs, not just sales. Of course, we're all in business. Sales at the end is absolutely important, hitting the bottom line. So measurable and effective KPIs, demonstrating your ROI, always being able to provide reports, and just really showing the impact of the work that you're doing. Okay. So as I said before, we do have that poll. Remember to send in some Q&As for us, and we have a special coming up very shortly for everyone who's on this webinar for October, November, December. A really great offer to everybody who wants to kind of get a taste. as we say in Jamaica, for those who, on the webinar who are from Jamaica, you'll understand the term taste and bite. We're giving you a little bit of taste of the types of reports that we produce here, giving you a special offer. Some of them are going to be able to go through in a little while. So you asked, how do I know if my communications are hitting the right target? Well, obviously my answer is going to first be, have we identified who that target is? Of course you have. Are we clear on where that target market is and what, where do they receive their media, where they're receiving messages? And you've launched this campaign, of course, answering all of those questions. But one of the biggest things is, have we put things in place to measure the outcome that we want? So sometimes our team gets questions at the end of a campaign. Hey, we just finished a 3-month campaign. Can you guys now go back and tell us everything that happened? It's so much more awesome when we're a part of your team, creating your campaign with you, also creating the measures of success, the KPIs that are important. And as we show you our system, Alison is going to do an awesome job of just showing you some of those, and I'll run through some as well. But getting the measurement and the success measurements in place before a campaign starts. And the other question is, what do I need to do to improve and meet my targets? Well, as I said, we have to set those targets first. We have to put the success measures in place. And we also have to benchmark. One of the things that you'll see come up, what's happening in the competitive space. And that's a really good place to start developing KPIs from as well. So we of course know the business objectives, your business objective, not the marketing objectives, which I'm always talking about, but also what's happening in your competitive space. What kind of targets should you be hitting at that point? That's another really great way to look at, developing targets for your marketing efforts. So sentiment. You want to know how potential customers feel about your brand. That's a really great KPI, because once we know what they're feeling about it, are they feeling in the same way that you want them to feel? Are they feeling the same way in a campaign that you've just launched? So one of the services that we offer here is just sentiment analysis, where we're looking at when you do a PR campaign, are the articles coming out in the way that you intended? Are the social media responses coming out in the way that you intended? Are people interacting with your brand in the way that that you intended? One of the great things for me is you're having a really great relationship with our media partners, journalists, who some of them are on with us today. So when we have those articles come in, and we are on TV6 or TVJ here in Jamaica, or any of the other stations that we work with in the nation, in Barbados, we want to make sure that they're writing in the way that we intended that story to come out. And the only way we can do that is, of course, tracking. Many of our services are tracking into 18 countries. Now, I know that some of you are really great superstars on this particular webinar, but I can pretty much be certain that you are not able to sit down and watch 18 countries, media houses all day long, every day. And for some reason, if you can, I'm saying there's a better way of doing it, and having a really robust monitoring and measurement tool in place to measure the sentiment, measure the public perception of your organization, of the people, of the brand. What are people saying? What are journalists saying about your brands and products? We are having a technical moment right here. So, and in terms of other things, is there a way to minimize unforeseen problems? Well, absolutely. We were a part of a crisis situation about 4 years ago. There was a fire here in Jamaica at one of our leading manufacturers, and we turned on our media monitoring system. Now, we were able to do that as quickly as we were because that client was already in our system. We were already tracking and measuring for them, had all our media houses engaged at this point. And one of the things that happened is that one of the journalists said on air that he was unable to confirm if every single employee had been accounted for. And I remember hearing that, and my heart broke at the time, because as a mother, I thought that's the last thing you want to hear, knowing that your child works at this particular company. We knew at that point, because we were also handling the PR, that every employee had been accounted for, and we were able to call right away to that journalist in real time within 10 minutes. He was able to come back on air and say absolutely every employee had been accounted for, and of course over the nation. That was a really wonderful thing. So unforeseen problems, we get that crises come up, but being in our system already, we were able to get into action right away, be monitoring what was happening in the space, be monitoring what the media was saying. Also, another great example that many of you would experience is, you're launching a new, we see it in telecoms a lot, where there's a lot of tit for tat. Everybody in telecoms right now can think of a moment where they launch something on a Monday morning, and by Tuesday their competitor is out with something new, and they're in a strat meeting, by 11 a.m. So by looking at being always aware of what's happening in your landscape, you can foresee. You have a great strategic planning group, of course, that you guys are already going through what could happen, what may happen. Then in real time, as you launch that campaign, you're able to see, one, are all the placements that I've put out to launch this campaign actually happening? That's an unforeseen problem if it's not. You're also able to see how people are reacting right away because you have a monitoring tool in place. And you're also able to see how journalists and the media houses are reacting through, PR stories. And as I alluded to before, all of the what's happening in the social media and online space. So the whole thing is always creating a cohesive look. So, of course, the social media team will have their perspective, and then, somebody from the PR team will be, looking at what's happening in the newspaper. But a really robust monitoring tool puts everything and aggregates it into one place. And that's where we see the real power for you to minimize any unforeseen problems. We went to the next slide, but the other thing is just looking at what's positive, what's neutral, in a snapshot, and certainly what's negative. Where is that appearing? So right away there's a negative comment happening. There's a story that's developing on a particular radio show or a TV show. You're able to go straight to that. I'm sure many of you have gotten the phone call at maybe 3 o'clock in the afternoon that says, I hear they're talking about us on hotline, or Red 96, or something like that. We hear these things, but the person who may just happen to be in their car picking up their kids didn't really know what radio station they were listening to. So we're scrambling to find out where this online conversation is happening or this radio conversation is happening. And I would say to you, when you put really positive, a really robust monitoring tool in place, that's another way of being able to take control of any situation that may come up. How do I know and control what is being said about my brand? So you would recognize that too. You may remember, I think it was in the past year that Toyota had a recall of some stuff on their products. And also we had a local situation here in Jamaica where the government of Jamaica had talked about, a new system for us here in Jamaica. It became a thing about biometrics. And there was all of this conversation happening around biometrics in Jamaica, and people scanning your eyes and your fingerprints. And there was all of this conversation happening. Now, what an awesome opportunity it was for us as a team to be able to aggregate the full conversation, the media. So when I say the media, I mean the traditional media, all the articles that were coming out, what was coming out on the talk shows, what was happening in the online space. I don't really want to tell you, there was a lot of conversation happening in the online space about this biometric security system that was being deployed or proposed on a national level, and many situations for really great positive responses. I have worked in many situations where we think that the general interaction around a topic is negative because you're hearing so much of the negative. But when you look at the media monitoring reports, you will see 80% of these articles have a sentiment analysis of positive online comments. The reach of them, 1.2 million people commenting on this. Oh my goodness, 70% of them are actually positive. But because sometimes we operate from an anecdotal place, or maybe just as human beings, we may gravitate towards the negative. we tend to think sometimes that a situation is a negative crisis or a crisis when it's not really, when you have these numbers and analytics in place. And I've actually encountered that a number of times where there's actually a lot more support for whether it be a national initiative or a really great marketing campaign. And the putting a monitoring tool in place before is just one way that you can always have empirical data supporting this communications campaign that you've come up with. So, did your message hit the right audience the way that you intended it? Um, Determining the likelihood of your audience. One of the great things, of course, your digital teams will be able to of course, give you maybe Facebook ads, how far they reached, who are they reaching to. But when you have a tool that is aggregating all of your content into one place, you're able to see also in real time what's happening for you. 9 million people reading this message, reading this tweet. By the way, just so you know, we do have permission to use some of the data that you see in front of us by our partners at Flow. And I apologize that I'm picking up my phone, but I'm not apologetic because our friends at Flow were supposed to be on with us this morning, because they've been working with us for a long time, and we just wanted to hear from them. Unfortunately, they got caught into a strategic session, but we wanted them to share how media monitoring has actually worked for them. And what we see from them here, just reading from my phone, is that it has enhanced our efficiency to track and monitor their communications. They use the insights from the report to inform how they make communications decisions. So when you are planning before, you have your KPIs in place, your key messages are in place, your creative is off the chain, and you have a monitoring tool in place, you're able to see right away and inform how we need to pivot on a campaign, how we need to change for the next time. We're able to see our competitive landscape and how they're responding. So they say once we launch a new initiative, we rely heavily on the DRT team and of course our software for comprehensive and prompt responses. So we can't operate. We all know we are operating. If our WhatsApp doesn't go off every 5 minutes, something must be wrong. Our WhatsApp must be down. We're very real time. We're very right now. So having a robust monitoring tool in place actually helps you figure out quite right away. Are messages getting to the right target audience? Are they hitting? We're able to inform our digital teams. Okay, guys, we're seeing where it's going to more women, but this particular TVC or video was created towards men. How can we adjust on that, or do we need to adjust on that? So they also say it helps the team to maintain an accurate view of how the brand or the initiative is being referenced in both social and traditional media channels. As I said, aggregating that all under one, being able to make strategic decisions. They particularly like the features that allow them to see the full text and articles with sound bites, because we all know that meeting where you get called and you hear that your competitor has launched a new campaign and somebody heard it on the news last night. Well, that's really not that helpful when you're sitting around a team of 15 people, including your creative agency. So what did the ad look like? What did it say? What was their key message? You only saw the ad once or maybe twice during TPJ, but now you're in this meeting. Our tool, which you'll be able to see and which our friends at Flow have used so well in the past couple of months, is knowing immediately when their competitors launch something. They have the campaign in print, they have it in TBC, they have everything in place. So when they hit that meeting at 9 o'clock the next morning to discuss what's happening in the landscape, they're fully equipped right away. And that's one of the things that they really depend on, that kind of real-time access that we've all become so dependent on. So at this time, I'm going to invite in a good partner of ours. They work with us a lot in terms of the tracking of ad placements. Together, we are tracking in over 18 countries in radio, television, print, and online channels. So allow me to welcome Alison Dema.
Yeah. Hello, Daniel. Thank you very much for your warm introduction. And as Daniel mentioned, DRT and Media InSite, we have developed a strategic partnership over the past 4 years, and we are particularly focused on tracking advertising placements as well as competitive intelligence in a number of Caribbean countries, including Jamaica. Now, whilst there's no doubt that we see a lot of the advertising budgets moving into the digital arena, what we have found is that across the region, including Jamaica, that traditional media ad placements is still important. In particular, we note that radio is king. And of course, depending, who your audience is, who you're targeting. So in some sectors, for example, financial services is a huge sector in Jamaica. And you would find, again, because the audience might be, sort of more mature business type, you would see, for example, in that sector, financial services, maybe newspaper advertising placements being used. So you really have to, know your audience, which is the audience you're targeting. As Daniel mentioned, is important before you launch any advertising campaign to have your KPIs in place and to immediately have a robust monitoring tool that will be able to detect any issues in advance of the campaign and also enable you to correct any errors during the course of the campaign and not have to wait until the end. So in relation to competitive intelligence, of course, it's important to know what your competitors' audience targeting strategies are with detailed brand investment. And that's what you can get from DRT and Media InSite. We can show you when, where, how often, and at what cost, because we know that there is a lot of competition in terms of advertising spend, or in fact, as we like to say, investment. So the chart you're seeing on the screen enables you to compare, period over period, whether it be current month with prior month, or if you want to compare, period, quarter over quarter, or even compare annual view, 2019 versus 2018, for example. And it's important to know the historical information with respect to your competitors, because that enables you to plan for, your current campaign, or if you're planning, your year in advance, you can inform your strategies by what you and your competitors were doing historically speaking. And understanding the competitive landscape really helps you make better decisions about how to spend and allocate your own budget. So for example, you may notice over a period of time, well, my competition is spending more on radio, and I am spending the bulk of my media investment is going into newspaper. So maybe you decide, okay, well, listen, I need to allocate more to radio, or it may be that you have a particular strategy, you're going to have after a target audience, and that audience is, focusing on newspaper. So that's important. It's also important to know what is your share. What is your share of investment? What's your share of voice in comparison with your competitors? Daniel mentioned the importance of benchmarking, seeing how you measure up against your competitors, and knowing, your overall market landscape. So in the market of Jamaica, for example, we've seen this example that, National Commercial Bank has the largest share of voice, right? And so if you have the largest share of voice, your strategy is going to be, you want to maintain your market lead. On the other hand, if you have a smaller share, obviously your target is going to be, okay, how can I increase my share? So how can I ensure that my brands get noticed, and therefore, that leads to, hopefully greater sales and greater profits for your brand. So again, it's important because whenever we have to allocate budgets for advertising, we often ask, well, how can we ensure that we're getting a return on investment? There's always that correlation with sales. And as Daniel mentioned, by having this competitive intelligence information that empowers you to be able to justify the sort of budgets that you're asking for, as well as how you're allocating your budget across various media types. Also important in terms of advertising monitoring, apart from the competitive landscape, is also to ensure that you're getting exactly what you're paying for, right? So how can you ensure that media houses are complying with your placement strategy? It's sometimes happens, we see it, that, let's say during, Reggae Sumfest, you might actually hear a Christmas ad playing, right? So by having this kind of tool, you immediately know that's not the correct creative. We need to have our current creative running. And of course, we know that we have booked, 100 ads on, IRE FM. How can we ensure that we are in fact getting those 100 ads? It's pretty easy to check newspaper placements, but when it comes to radio in particular and television, obviously it's more difficult. So it's very important that you have a tool, like I said, that enables you to protect your investment and verify that your spots are airing as requested, and also discover and quickly correct any media house errors early, instead of having to wait until the end of a campaign. You can easily ensure that the media house makes the corrections. And also, what this enables you to do as well, especially, let's say if you're an agency, or if you are in fact doing your own media buying and placement, you want to be able to improve your negotiating positions. So if the media houses don't comply strictly with your placement schedules, you have that knowledge, you can show it to them, and therefore gives you leverage in your future negotiations to get better rates, better discounts, or even make good ads. So that both verifying media house compliance as well as competitive intelligence information are important tools for you to have in relation to your media placement strategy.
Thank you, Alison. We really appreciate that. I want to just jump into some questions here that came up as we were both speaking. One of the questions that I like is, well, I like all of them, but one of them says, does your monitoring system recognize slang? And one of the beautiful things about using our monitoring system is that we have taken the time and the financial investment to allow it to speak the different dialects of the Caribbean for our news monitoring. So yes, it is picking up, um, you know, I always say the difference between when ZJ Bambina says, yo, go on KFC crew, to in this evening's news, when we can go between the parlance and our intonations. So yes, our slang. Someone else asked, how are we picking up the sentiment? How do you know if something is negative or positive? Well, the powerful use of language, our system is actually taught each and every single day what is positive and what is negative. Of course, what may be positive for one company may be less so for their competitor, right? But we do use our system is extremely accurate, and where it is inaccurate is where I think it's just funny us as Caribbean people, where we say things like the ticket shot, or I have a friend who says murder for everything. And he really means that that's a really good thing, or some girl is good looking or something. Um, so we actually go in at that point and actually change the sentiment, to be more culturally relevant, if you will. Or there's another, oh, the thing wicked. I did shot early. Yeah. The thing shot is always a good one. So we go in at that point and changing the most effective way to split the media budget, pre-planning assistance, absolutely. One, that is something that we will work with you. So Alison just spoke a while ago about, even before you enter your campaign, in your planning process, looking at what's happening in your competitive space. So Tracy, that's an awesome question. That's an awesome insight in terms of our system alone assisting you with pre-planning, for your marketing strategy. What method are you using to assign a sentiment for a media clip? I went through a little bit of it before. And what obtaining reviews, what is the margin of uh, error as it would be obtained through more secondary means? I'm not sure if I'm answer if I understand the question properly, but I'll understand it as I interpret it. The way that a lot of people are doing media monitoring right now, whether that be through news monitoring or ad monitoring, is a very manual way, where some of us are still clipping the newspapers, or having. We actually went to a meeting the other day at an organization, and there were still a bank of people listening with headphones. And what was interesting is that one person was asleep before we went into the meeting, and they were still asleep at the end of the meeting. It's about 45 minutes long, so there's definitely 45 minutes of human error happening there, and I honestly hope you've had a longer nap since. Um, so I've gotten some rest. So human error was always going to jump in at this point, to be able to highlight. Also, the beauty about using a system that's technologically driven is, one, it's 24-hour access. Two, it's a much cheaper service. Um, but most importantly is that kind of margin of error, where it is you're even able to go back in. If you suspect, so we use example of sentiment earlier, where something says it's shot, we're able to go back in and assign new sentiment to it, maybe because technology does not understand it's shot. We're able to do that. You're able to go back up to 90 days. Maybe there was another angle that came out about your the story that has been created. It's 90 days later. Why has this resurfaced? What was said before? If you're depending on a human being to do that, you're going based on their memory. They've only done 100 tasks since then. And also, you're able to look at the wider landscape. What was everyone saying? Was it just one news channel that was speaking negatively about this? Was it two news channels? And I just want to jump in also on the margin of error as it relates to ad monitoring. We have seen where what Alison said about a Christmas ad showing in Reggae Sumfest, which for those of you who are not from Jamaica, Reggae Sumfest happens in July, so slightly outside of the Christmas season. It happens, and recently we've been getting quite a bit of queries. We do have one client in particular that for some reason their ads just kept getting placed wrong, and they didn't even know this before. They came on with us about 4 months ago, and I think they've maybe had 4 queries with us that we were able to show the media house, certainly not in a confrontational way, but in a way of preserving the spend that we're all fighting so hard to get as marketers. That I'm sorry, you placed my ad in, you placed my back to in my back to school period. You actually placed our, I think it was a Valentine's ad that came out, or the summer special. I mean, it has been insane. It's actually been eye opening for me as a marketer, how many errors are made and how many we've been able to catch. Allison has a partner as well that we work with, and he estimates that 70%, only 70% of radio ads place as you like them to place.
Yeah, that
Now,
is correct. We have actually done manual testing to verify, and that is in fact correct.
and what will happen is that the media house will come back and tell you that it was placed. And the example that I like to give is, if you're working with a fast food client, as we do here, and we're very strategic about when our ads place. We are placing our ads at 10:30 in the morning. Why? Because that's generally speaking probably about now, or a little bit before. You were saying, you leaned over to your friend at your desk and said, hey, what we're doing for lunch. You probably tuned out and went on Instagram because you've already been working for about 2 hours at that point. You're kind of tuning out and you're saying, what are we doing for lunch? Our ads for this fast food restaurant are coming up very strategically in your Instagram feed, but they're also coming up. That's when we have ads on Zip because we want to be a part of the or Zip or Fame or wherever it would be. Um, we're very clear on what time we place it at. So when the media house tells us that the ad placed at 12:15, we know that the consumer buying decision happens between 10:30 and 11:30. So placing my ad, which is a lead generation ad at 12:15, doesn't serve me. So therefore, I paid for something that didn't place when I wanted it to place. The same thing happens to us for our alcohol clients and our what's a good one is our pizza clients. We know moms are tired at 4:30 and want a convenience food. So we are playing our ads at 4:30 and just, telling her that it's a little bit healthier to order the vegetarian option, right? Or we're very clear for our alcohol clients when exactly you are feeling that you just invite a friend out for a drink, or when the day of the week that you know that a guy will ask a girl out on a date. There's insight that's happening. So we need when we sit in boardrooms and we create all of this strategy, and when people make the buying decisions or plan to actually purchase, we need our ads to place at that time, and we need cooperation, of course, from our media houses. So when we hear that only 70% of our ads are being placed as we require them, I don't know about you guys, but 30% of my budget, my radio budget, I can't lose that. I need it to be very, very, very specific. And I know there are marketers going, on this call right now. So I hope it says anonymous, but I do hope that I've answered that question around around use of data. Um, do you also do market research? We incorporate a lot of our media monitoring services into market research. We do have research partners that we work with. So we'd be glad to have that conversation with you. But in-house, no. But our information feeds a lot of current marketing research. Now, do you have suggested media benchmarks? So the thing about are there different benchmarks per territories? So the thing about benchmarks, yes, we do have standard ones, and I sound like I'm apprehensive because every industry is different and every company is different because every business objective is different. So when we set a media benchmark, it has to be based on the strategy of the company. And that's actually where we come in on the kind of marketing communication side of our business. What are you trying to achieve? So I can give you general things. I can say, in Jamaica, you'd probably say 40% of your media spend should go to radio. That's a little bit broad brush because somebody on this call just went, Daniel, no way, I would never spend more than 20 because my target audience is actually watching TVJ based on the research we've done and based on our strategy, based on our brand. I have a client, many of you would know, I can say it. We used to work very closely with Red Bull. Now, Red Bull didn't care about radio because their strategy was all about the visual, right? So benchmarks, broad brush benchmarks don't necessarily work for me. And I think in this day and age, it's so important that we're very specific about the KPIs we're setting, specific about our objectives, and specific about our benchmarks. We'll be glad to continue working with you, Tracy, to see how even some of our services can help you develop more specific benchmarks for the company that you're with. It would be a pleasure to do so. So just gonna move it. So you see that I've been joined by this handsome gentleman right here. His name is Raglan, and he's our business development officer here at DRT. He's a career marketer. He's hit the ground running. It was one thing that he could sell ice to an Eskimo. But the most important thing for me is that I've seen an authentic side to Raglan. He's actually caught on to why media monitoring is important. So Raglan, tell me 3 things that you've learned in your time here at DRT that you think is so important for every marketer to know.
Hi, afternoon. Or morning.
Some of us working from 5 o'clock in the morning. This morning.
Right. So as marketers, as marketing managers, we love to hit the ground running with PR campaigns. I mean, it's just to, get sales so that we can increase awareness. But what we have been lacking really is really having a 360 approach. We're not monitoring our ad campaigns. We're not monitoring the stories that we want to go out to the public.
Right.
And in fact, we just have an idea, we have a new product, and we just want to raise awareness.
Right.
But how did you come up with that strategy? To be honest, if you need a 360 approach, you have to now track the trends in the industry beforehand.
Right.
So you have to know the stories that you want to be published.
Right.
And in fact, the chief thing about PR is not to get sales at the back end. PR basically creates an image.
It's creating an image, it's telling a story. So that goes back to that thing I was saying before about your KPIs not just going to sales. Is your story being told? Is what comes
Right.
up when we're doing PR.
Because then again, the customers that you're interacting with or that you're marketing to, sometimes they don't want a hard sell.
No, they just want the brand affinity.
Right.
They want knowledge about what you're doing. They want to know what else this company is about, so that they feel that fancy word that we learned in marketing 101 called brand affinity. All we want them to do is like us. They want to have an emotional experience with us.
So my company sells sweets, right? But I need to know, no. I need to tell you, I need to tell my public, hey, having too much sweets may not necessarily be great for you. So how about having the watermelon because it's 100% natural?
Right.
Sure, so give me more editorial stories around the watermelon and not just a hard sell.
Right.
And that's what you need to track beforehand. And so monitoring the entire industry is extremely crucial. And that's something that I'm trying to tell all my clients that has to be done.
We have to have it before. And also we can have it in the post. So one of the things that we're excited about, we're working with a client now, we just prepared a proposal for them, is letting them know what's happening in insurance in the past 3 months. Actually, we can go back, I think it can go back to 2 years
right.
to say, this is what's happening. One of the first things I told Raglan when he started here, working with a client, they said they just spending. They just didn't know how to, and it's one of my favorite stories when we talk about ad monitoring. People were this client was just spending money. The media houses would send them a proposal and they would just do it. They are quite a cash-rich company, and they would just do things because they felt like if they didn't do it, their competitor would do it. So we come up with ad monitoring 4 years ago, and working with Alison and her team. And we find out that this company has been outspending their nearest competitor by $4 million. So they were spending $8 million a month in media monitoring, $8 million in ads, right? And to find out that their nearest competitor was spending $4 million. So even if they went down by $2 million, media monitoring can save them a wad load of money right away. I don't think we can ever lose that client. I mean, it's absolutely possible for us. And so I give that example, just you must always use it to plan before, but because our system was able to go back 2 years, they were able to look back and see, oh my God, we've been outspending our nearest competitor for 2 years. And that's 48 million Jamaican dollars times 2. Oh, I mean, over 2 years, that's a serious amount of money. And I know every marketer right now on this call that's been fighting for budget is saying, boy, what I would do with some of that money. They couldn't give it to me instead of spending it. So I just wanted to introduce you guys to Raglan, because likely you'll be hearing from him, and he's a great person to contact. I'm also available to you. So I'm very transparent, right? So our screen just went dead. So we don't actually have an idea what's happening on the screen right now. We're doing the special, see, because I have a great team. So tell me about the team. It's October, November, December, OND.
Yes. So what we're going to do, we're going to be offering a nice discount, right? So once you come,
40%.
40%
On a 3-month quarterly report. Right?
And if Danielle was telling you that she is going bonkers over losing 30% of her radio, budget, when she offers 40%, let's hope we can keep the lights on here, right? So it's just a little taste and buy. You'll see what the reports are like. You're going to get graphical representation of how you increase market share and mind share, and how you slowly erode into the leading market share the company that has a leading market share.
Right. So just to reiterate, so if you sign on with us for this report by October the 30th, we're going to give you a report in October, November, December, and then a quarterly report. If you're interested, that will come to you at a 40% discount that we're glad to offer you. And you will be way ahead of your 2020 strategy. You'll be on top of what's happening in the clearly for many people, the busiest time of year, being able to pivot and make decisions around your communication strategy and your marketing and ad strategy in a real way. So I wanted to thank everyone. Do we have any questions that I'm not seeing because our screen was dead over here? Anybody, you can, where's one question? Answer the question. All right, so one of the things that we're using, of course, we're able to do that beautifully, and I really can't wait for the next webinar that's going to show you our extremely awesome social media and online tracking tool that is actually able to show you by user, the virality, where, you know, when a tweet starts somewhere and we're all saying, okay, where did that begin? We're able to go right back to where it started, how many times a user, you know, interacted with your message, with your brand. It's really powerful. The other thing that we're using for the media monitoring, ad and news monitoring is that we're using research that already exists. So we can say to you, you know, you did, you know, you did 100 radio placements on Zip last month. We know right away we're tying that back to the circulation, not circulation, sorry, the impressions and listenership is the word I want, that's happening on Zip at that time. So our reports are quite deep. I hope that answered the question. If not, feel free to message me. I'm Daniel DRT on Instagram. We have corporate at DRT Communication. I'm sure there's contact information on the screen. Right now there's Raglan, there's me. Feel welcome to message and ask me any questions, as well as you've already gotten probably 100 emails from us anyway, so you can always reply on any of those. Would love your feedback on the webinar, anything we can do to improve, any questions that you want to continue asking us, or that we can reconvene for another webinar soon. Let us know. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate you spending this morning with us and hope that it was helpful. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel and Raglan.
Alison from Media InSite, my apologies. Our partners at Media InSite really make a lot of what we do possible, and we're very grateful for their time as well.
Thank you.